Hobbits tend to talk a lot about food and what sort of food they eat, and occasionally about ale. But what about wine? Do hobbits drink wine? Today we will explore this together. Welcome back to another episode of the Lore of Arda, the video series where I cover all sorts of topics concerning the lore of Middle-earth. It's been some time since my last video, but I hope to be more active on YouTube again and hopefully make some more content that you guys find interesting. If you like the video, please leave a like and share it with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed already, feel free to do so as well. Now let's begin. Before we can answer if hobbits drink wine, I thought it would be ideal to figure out if the land is suited for wine production. And perhaps you already guessed it. Yes, indeed it is. In fact, long before the hobbits settled the Shire, it was used by the kings of Arda for wine production. It seems like the hobbits continued this wine culture in the land. More specifically, we actually get to know the name of one of these wines that are produced in the Shire: Old Winyards. According to the Lord of the Rings, A Reader's Companion, Old Winyards is not only a type of wine, but also a place in Southfarthing. I think that's rather interesting. I did my best to find a map where it's actually marked, but I only managed to find one. It looks like some fertile hills in the Southfarthing. Old Winyards is noted as a strong wine, which I think is a fun little note, as wine in medieval times were in fact way stronger than modern wine. I think that if anyone tasted this wine, it would be way stronger than any wine today, and they would probably spit it out. And now you might be thinking that it's a bit sad that none of all this is actually used in the film or books, but then you would be wrong, because we do in fact hear about Old Winyards, and in fact it's one of the first things Bilbo mentions in the Fellowship of the Ring. As Gandalf enters Bag End, Bilbo takes his staff and hat, and as he walks away from him, he says the following. Now this is only in the movie, and this dialogue is not in the books, but I think it would be fun to dive a little deeper into it. So Bilbo says it was laid down by his father, Bungo Baggins, in 1296. That is actually a rather clever way of adding some hidden lore into the line. You see, in the Shire, the hobbits actually use a different calendar system, and thus the year is different to the outside world. So 1296 is actually 2896, Third Age. At that time, Bilbo would have been 6 years old. So yes, it is indeed almost as old as he. That being said, there are at least 2 times in the books where we hear about Old Winyards. As Bilbo leaves the Shire, he gives a lot of presents to various relatives and friends. Among them is old Rory Brandybuck, who is an uncle to Frodo on his mother's side. The line used in the Fellowship of the Ring movie seems to be an abstraction of this line. It sounds like old Rory Brandybuck liked the wine a lot. So Bilbo's father did indeed lay down some bottles of Old Winyards, and later in the story Frodo actually drinks the last bit of Old Winyards as he is about to depart from the Shire. In the Hobbit films, we see Dory offer some red wine to Gandalf as well, but we don't know if this is actually Old Winyard. But based on the other facts we know, it seems very likely that it is. But then again, this minor scene is also only in the movie and not mentioned in the books. Anyway, to conclude, yes, hobbits drink wine, and they actually produce at least one type of wine themselves in Southfarthing. I would assume that Southfarthing is the best land in all of the Shire for wine production.